Hello and welcome to today's Information Week webinar, Build Seamless IT Service Management with Automation, sponsored by Team Dynamics and broadcast by Informa Tech Target. I'm Michael Krieger with Information Week. I'll be your moderator for our discussion today. And these days, automation is no longer a nice to have, it's a strategic necessity. From reducing manual workloads to minimizing downtime and accelerating service delivery, automation helps transform IT operations to better align with business objectives. That's why we're here today. We're going to hear from our experts about a practical framework for implementing automation in IT service management, including how to assess your current environment, identify high-impact use cases, and prioritize initiatives that improve efficiency, strengthen compliance, and enable scalability. We'll also cover what not to do when adopting automation. On that note, I'm pleased to introduce our speakers. Today, we are joined by Mahmoud Ramin, PhD, Senior Research Analyst with Infotech Research Group, and Andrew Graff, Chief Product Officer at Team Dynamics. Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Terrific. Thanks. Before I hand it over to you two, I just want to remind our audience of a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, this webinar is interactive. At the bottom of your screen, there are buttons you can click to learn more about our speakers, download a copy of the slides, share the webinar via social media outlets, and participate in the Q&A session that takes place at the end of our presentation. You can also use the Q&A area to let us know if you're experiencing any technical issues, and our team will do our best to assist. So, okay, let's get to it. Mahmoud, Andrew, over to you.
Thank you so much, Michael, and hello, everyone. So today, we're going to discuss building a framework for implementing automation to improve service management and IT operations, as Michael mentioned. But even before getting into building a framework, let's discuss a few benefits of automation for the whole service management and IT operations. Automation has become a necessity for managing complex organizational tasks, enabling speed and agility of response. So here are a quick list of automation's benefits for IT operations and service management, as I mentioned. Automation reduces manual and repetitive tasks and helps agents focus on high value and sophisticated ones. Proactive maintenance minimizes downtime and improves SLA adherence. Automated ticket triage and routing reduces mean time to respond to and resolve incidents. Automation improves resource allocation, preventing over or under provisioning through dynamic and real-time resource adjustment. Reduction of manual and repetitive activities results in significant cost savings. Real-time monitoring and automated compliance checks ensure security compliance. AI-powered technology enables real-time monitoring, providing insights on systems performance and operational trends. Automated processes and workflows empower IT operations to adapt to changing business requirements and support organizational growth. Automation unleashes the power of shared insights and improves productivity. And last but not least, automation of mundane and repetitive tasks assists IT in focusing on strategic initiatives that would improve innovation. So many organizations are demanding a more effective IT engagement model, prioritizing reduced downtime, faster service recovery, and seamless delivery of new solutions. About 98% of organizations that participated in a survey believe that 1 hour of downtime costs them over $100,000, indicating how crucial it is to proactively mitigate system and service failures. Another study by Services Institute shows that 81% of end users try to self-solve their issues before even contacting the service desk. The self-service capabilities of ITSM platforms shows the major impact of these tools in revolutionizing customer service. And of course, with the rapid advancement of AI and its increasing integration into technology platforms, artificial intelligence has become the dominant trend in IT service management, jumping from only 28% in 2023 to 44% in 2024. But despite its huge benefits, implementing automation itself is challenging and time-consuming. For example, script creation is very time-consuming, which is a burden for an IT team that is already busy with firefighting. processes that are not documented or handled consistently won't get much benefit from automation. And of course, security and compliance are another big challenges in any automation initiative. So, Andrew, we talked a bit about all the benefits of different kind of automation use cases for service management and IT operations. But what are the top reasons why companies are not automating at a faster rate? And what are the hurdles or obstacles in the way?
I think it's a combination of things. The first is, I think there's a bit of an overwhelming task ahead of people who say, hey, we really want to embrace automation. And that's often, where do we start? Right? What kinds of things would we want to automate? Because the opportunities are plentiful. So, what we see there is the best organizations are picking automation opportunities where everyone who's involved with that process or transaction dislikes it. It is difficult. Balls get dropped easy. It's hard to monitor. It takes too long. There's lots of room for error. And there are always those out there. The second is, how do we actually approach implementing? And in the past, I think that technology has been a big barrier to this, because the technologies required to truly embrace automation were incredibly complicated, required deep skill sets, often very expensive. So when you have a vision for something, it was hard to execute. We're seeing the advent of no-code and low-code platforms to allow sysadmins to actually build out automation as a game changer, to allow companies to start improving their businesses through automation. So I think there have been lots of, reasonable and understandable barriers. I believe that is changing now, and I think that's good news.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, lack of a clear strategy and vision, and based on what I also keep hearing from our clients, many organizations begin automation as an isolated experiment, without a clear roadmap, right? And one other thing to add on what you mentioned is maybe some fragmented technology landscape, like including legacy systems and siloed applications, and even diverse IT environments that would slow integration. Of course, there are lots of other concerns or challenges, like data quality to fit into the machine learning algorithms, if it is more around AI enablement, and also organizational resistance, like employee may fear job loss that would lead to cultural pushback that requires better communication between IT and the business, and between business and their end users as well. Great, thank you so much. So that takes us to the first poll for today. And the question is, where do you put yourself on the scale for ITSM automation? And so that is from none or nothing is automated, to basic workflows in place, advanced automation, enterprise automation with integrations, or fully automated with AI in play. So Andrew, what do you think the most ratio would be? And I don't want to bias the audience.
Yeah, I think I would say, from our experience, really B, right? So most organizations have some sort of, PowerShell implemented, or people have written scripts for common things. But that's, I think that would be my guess. But I could always be pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely. Right. Let's give them a few seconds to get more response. From my perspective, I think, again, I don't want to bias anyone, but based on what I keep hearing from our clients is, it really depends on the organization, right? But sometimes, or usually they may come with saying that we have some basic workflows in place, and that is actually very good for further automation. Some larger enterprises would actually come with, enterprise automation with integrations as well. Okay, a few more seconds before we move on. Okay, let's get to results. So the highest ratio belongs to basic workflows in place. So I think that aligns with what I also said that I get actually from many of our clients with 62.5%. And then the second one goes to either none or nothing is automated, or enterprise automation with integration. That I personally believe maybe coming from those organizations that are relatively bigger. But again, it really depends on the maturity level of those organizations. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. So now, implementing automation is the end goal, right? But your roadmap will also contain, different initiatives, or should contain different initiatives that address critical prerequisites to this goal. Many organizations are really interested in automating without a strategic plan for selection and implementation of automation use cases. Without a strategic plan for assessing factors such as suitability, value, risk, and feasibility, your organization may end up with an overwhelming list of automation use cases that may even lead to further complexities that would even introduce new bottlenecks and even outages. At the beginning of your automation journey, you need to identify your goals and define your current state for the processes that you intend to automate. This will give you a good starting point to identify your use cases. Then running a suitability assessment will help you analyze to what extent the process is ready for automation. Thereafter, something like value versus risk comparison will help you define whether it is really worth proceeding with the use case or not. And also, feasibility assessment addresses prerequisites to automation, such as your current tools, the required trainings, and even stakeholder buy-in. So this approach can help you refine your candidate list to deploy automation features that will help you transform your service management and IT operations. And for the rest of this presentation, we'll get to more details of this framework. So at the first step, as I mentioned, you need to align automation goals with business objectives to ensure initiatives drive business impact and help adopt measurable success. The ultimate goal of automation should be something like improving operational efficiency. Reduction of manual tasks and duplications will reduce the chance of human error and streamline your processes. Investments in automation should facilitate the organization's adaptability to evolving business requirements, ensuring it remains agile and flexible to market changes. Investment in innovation strategies alongside strong cybersecurity processes result in improvement of systems monitoring and threat detection, benefiting the whole organization and end users. And following process standardization, automation promotes consistency, ensuring services meet predefined standards. Following goals assessment, you should select the right use cases that align with your strategic goals, driving efficiency and reliability. Processes that are well understood, well standardized, and very well documented are the best candidates for automation. Their consistency, predictability, and scalability simplifies implementation and enhances the likelihood of success outcomes. Then you need to prioritize repetitive tasks. And as IT teams spend around 70% of their time on repetitive and time-consuming tasks, automating these tasks can free up resources to conduct more sophisticated projects during and actually driving more and further business value to the whole organization. Further operational improvements through automation leads to more cost savings. So that as the next step, you need to identify use cases that help you drive substantial cost savings. Then identify opportunities that contribute to business success. When selecting your use cases, you need to make sure about seamless integration with your existing system to support scaling automation. And after identifying automation opportunities, you should map the path toward full automation by assessing where you are and where you want to go for each candidate process. Leverage the insights from a comprehensive maturity assessment to craft targeted improvement strategies, ensuring alignment of automation initiatives with organizational goals. So you need to identify your strengths and gaps and pinpoint improvement opportunities for each process. Establish a baseline for measuring progress following implementation of your initiatives. Guide automation initiatives to the areas with the greatest impact potential, and enhance client and partner confidence through demonstrating solid maturity levels. So here is a hierarchy of service management and IT operations maturity levels. And that starts with manual ad hoc maturity, where the processes are performed manually in an inconsistent manner. So if you're at this level of maturity, maybe this is not a good stage to start automating your processes, because these are very manual and these are not very consistent. The next level of maturity is manual standardized maturity level, where the processes are performed manually, but unlike the previous stage of maturity, they are in a consistent manner because they have been documented and standardized. This is actually a very good stage for starting with automation. Then blended maturity processes are aided with some elements of automation. And at the automated maturity level, processes are fully automated with human oversight for the purposes of verification and orchestration. And at the end level of maturity, we have the autonomized level, where there is no human interaction at all. After identifying the current state of each candidate process, you need to assess the target state of these processes to guide you through your automation journey. The key factors for assessing the target state are scope, benefits, and pain points. You need to define scope to help you understand what processes are required at a level of maturity and where automation comes into play. Then you need to identify the benefits of each target level to discover the potential outcomes of achieving this maturity level and to find out its impact on process efficiency, process reliability, as well as their scalability. Also, for each target level, you need to brainstorm and document pain points to outline the potential challenges at the selected level and discuss bottlenecks or risks that may hinder operations. But not all processes are equally suitable for automation. So you should conduct a suitability assessment to identify use cases that provide the greatest benefits. So you need to define whether the process is known, documented, and standardized. A well-documented and standardized process facilitates automation and enables automation expansion and scaling. Automation is highly dependent on accurate, clean, and consistent data. Low data quality leads to inefficiencies and errors, deteriorating task delivery. That being said, you need to analyze whether the data feeding into the process has high quality, is consistent, and complete. Repetitive processes are ideal candidates for automation as they free up resources to perform other tasks and reduce error risks. Not all use cases can provide value. Through a structured value assessment, you can prioritize use cases that have the highest impacts on organizational goals. Here is a list of criteria for value assessment. With automation, the process can be executed faster and more efficiently, reducing delays and bottlenecks. Automation can significantly improve end-user satisfaction by proactively addressing their requirements. Automation helps ensure tasks are performed consistently with a higher accuracy. It can also take care of highly repetitive tasks and help staff focus on higher value activities, making them more effective. And also, automation of mundane and repetitive tasks reduces employee burnout and improves their overall job satisfaction. So as you assess these 5 criteria, which are, again, process efficiency, end user satisfaction, process quality, staff effectiveness, and staff engagement, you can then refine your list to the processes that will provide more value following automation. So, Andrew, at the beginning of the presentation, I talked a little bit about different kind of use cases, right, and the benefits as well. But what are the top use cases that you see for automation within ITSM or even beyond ITSM in enterprise service management?
Yeah. So I think the low-hanging fruit are those things that take a lot of time and they don't require much intellectual horsepower. So I talk about times where your resources are just mouse jockeys. They're literally just clicking through. So permission changes, group creation, password resets, requests for things like eligibility to replace a laptop. Activities and processes that are returning simple answers or executing workflows that just really shouldn't require a human to have a conversation about it. And on the other side, from a consumer perspective, those processes that take longer than the customer thinks they should. So I think those are the most common types of things we're seeing. Now, beyond that, I think there's tremendous opportunity, especially when you enable virtual support agents with automation. So your virtual support agents aren't just regurgitating text and answers. They're actually doing things like telling you when your laptop could be replaced, and then also helping you replace that laptop. Again, it's unloading work from an agent, and the customer's getting that service when they want it and when they need it. So I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. The other thing I'll note as well is that I think that a major change that has taken place in the past probably 24 months is that the cost of automations has dropped dramatically. So when you're building your business cases and framing up the opportunity, the ability to build these automations has increased tremendously, especially amongst those who aren't software developers or DevOps people. And that's a big deal because you can do more prototyping, you can experiment with things more. It's not as big of an investment of time and resources to stand up an automation, to test it, right? I think that's a huge shift so that, you can take advantage of opportunities more quickly and prove them out or disprove them more quickly. I think that's a big deal.
Great insight. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, what I hear from our clients is that they're more wondering around, for example, automating ticket triage and routing, right? Self-healing is also something that we keep hearing. Whether that a part of that could be done in ITSM platform. They do have a really huge impact on self-healing incidents, but also some of the categories of platforms like AIOps would be very, very helpful for detecting and auto-resolving issues and problem management even. Knowledge article suggestion using, NLP capabilities would be also very helpful. And as you mentioned, some of the use cases that organizations would find very helpful that I feel like they're adopting a lot these days is something like password reset, asset tracking as well, as you mentioned, and also some other use cases would be around employee onboarding and offboarding and change management, workflow automation, asset and configuration management, and so on. Well, the list is actually very huge, but it really depends on what organizations' real requirements are. Thank you so much. So that takes us to the next poll, which is, so if you had a magic wand and if you could automate one thing tomorrow, what would it be? Something that you're not doing already today. So that is either onboarding or offboarding, equipment replacement, password resets, check account balances, user permissions, PTO balance checks, name or address updates. And I think
the audience to chime in. How about I ask you one of the questions that has come in? We have a question from Steve who wants to know, what are some quick wins organizations can typically expect early on?
So quick wins in terms of use cases or processes, because here we're actually talking about two different kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from processes, I would say standardizing your high volume processes, like your highly repetitive incidents and service requests, would be a very important quick win, a very impactful quick win, right? Improving documentation and communication around service expectations would be also very important. But I think a quick win, and Andrew, please feel free to chime in here as well. I think automating more repetitive tasks, like I think password reset and asset tracking could be actually part of them, would be actually very important, as some of the quick wins, depending on if they are really of a high impact to the organization, and whether you are ready enough to adopt such use cases.
Yeah, I would say if you're not doing it already, password resets usually take up a tremendous amount of the brain power and time of agents. So that's a pretty easy one. And then I would say from an effort to value, the onboarding offboarding process automation is a big winner because it involves lots of departments. There's lots of room for error. It has to happen quickly and in a quality manner to bring someone on board. And I think also a lot of organizations discount the offboarding process. Onboarding effectively reduces people's work frustration, provides a great starting point for the new team members coming on board. But offboarding is very much about risk mitigation, right? And freeing up things like licenses so we're not overspending. So I think both of those have a tremendous amount of value, or potentially
Great.
can.
I'll turn it back over to you to continue.
Thank you so much. Let me go on to the next one, and that takes us to the results. So what do we have the highest? We have actually 3 groups. So equipment replacement, password resets, which was expected, user permission AD updates. And that follows with onboarding, offboarding, I think, Andrew, to your point, and PTO balance checks. Okay.
I think one source of wealth in the planning process is your history of service requests, right? So, you can take your history of service requests and analyze them, by category, or even leverage AI tools to say, hey, what are the top trends where we're providing service that could potentially be automated, right? And I think these tools do a really good job. So you can help identify, the types of activities that you might use as a starting point for your planning.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. So, okay, but despite its values, automation has potential risks that you should pinpoint before adoption, right? So automation can exceed IT's capacity to manage or scale processes effectively. That would introduce bottlenecks. It may even obscure operational insights, making it hard to track resources effectively during critical events. Automation may compromise IT's ability to meet legal, ethical, and regulatory standards. It may even limit visibility and reduce understanding of how processes are executed. And besides, the rapidly evolving automation landscape makes it difficult to stay agile and adapt to ever-changing requirements. So now that you have analyzed these 3 factors, which are suitability, value, and risk of each automation use case, now you need to make a balance between these 3 factors to help for an efficient prioritization. So a balanced approach helps you align automation initiatives with strategic objectives, improving efficiency and minimizing risks. Based on these combined scores, you can then categorize use cases in 3 groups. The first group of use cases is a group of them that are clear to proceed, which are the processes that are ready for automation and require minimal effort for further preparation. The second group, which requires mitigating action, includes the processes that have some gaps that should be addressed and fulfilled before proceeding with automation. And the third group includes the processes that require significant redesign before automation. So following suitability, value, and risk assessment, a feasibility assessment will help you find out whether the organization has the capacity and resources to implement automation use cases. For that, you need to consider these factors when conducting the assessment. For technology assessment, ask yourself something like, do we have the tools and data that support automation? For example, if you have a legacy ticketing solution that is not compatible with a real-time monitoring tool, then automating SLA adherence will not be very much feasible. The next assessment factor is talent and training. Ask yourself, do we have skills to implement and manage this automation? For example, a lack of AI expertise and data analytical skills may delay implementing advanced root cause analysis. Regarding financial costs, ask yourself, are the costs for implementing and maintaining the automation technology manageable? For instance, if you don't have enough backup systems and IT deals with redundant infrastructure, automation of disaster recovery processes will be very expensive, falling out of your budget. Another factor is effort level. Ask yourself something like, is the effort involved with implementing and maintaining automation manageable? For instance, if your current IT infrastructure requires significant configuration and customization, automation of patch management will require a huge effort. And the last feasibility assessment factor is stakeholder buy-in. Ask yourself, do we have a full support from all stakeholder groups? This is actually very important, as without a full buy-in, agents may be resistant to using automation, causing delays and a waste of investment on technology. And that takes us to the next poll, which is, do you have a no-code integration and automation platform to leverage? The choices are, our system only does basic automation. We can do advanced, but it requires developers. Or we have a no-code integration and automation platform.
And please respond to the poll. We'd love to hear from you while we're waiting. I have another great question from Georg in the audience, if you'd like to hear it. He asks, what strategies do you see as impactful in multi-vendor environments where a number of IT services and hosting providers coexist in the global IT ecosystem? And then there's a part two to this. How can automation remove the friction at the scope of work boundaries, especially in ITSM problem management?
I can actually do my best to answer that question. And again, Andrew, please feel free to interrupt me whenever you want. So one of the challenges is actually fragmented ownership, I think, that different providers may own different tiers, like from level 1 to level 2 and level 3, sometimes level 4. Or different kind of components like infrastructure, applications, and network with limited transparency. There is that actually causes some inconsistencies around processes. Like each vendor may follow their own incident and problem resolution methods, their own SLAs and tools, and also that causes a blame shifting behavior, especially when root cause is really unclear. Delays arise from deflecting accountability. So I would say that some automation pieces, like for example, automating root cause analysis orchestration in problem management, could be actually very helpful by building automated workflows to orchestrate root cause analysis that would take the tasks across vendors, and part of that I think can be actually done by automation tools, and also unified service topology and CMDB driven automation would be actually very helpful. But of course, having a clear RFP with these vendors and following a SIAM strategy would be very, very helpful and crucial even before moving ahead with automation. I hope that tries to answer at least a bit of that question.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. Something else to think about. I think that multi-vendor and service provider environment is the common denominator, right? I mean, most organizations have some version of on-prem installed applications, AWS, Azure. And so when you're thinking about an automation platform, one thing I think is really important is that you choose a platform that is built from the ground up to integrate with all sorts of different tools. It's not ITSM centric, or it's not IT ops centric, or it's not ERP centric, that it has the connectors and processes that can automate and build integrations and automations between all of those different tools and categories of solutions seamlessly, because I do think that that's the sort of new standard. And then you think about, I think when you say hosting providers, I typically, my mind runs to AWS, Azure, Google, but I think with cloud software, they are essentially hosting providers too. So your Salesforce, your Workday, all of those are also hosting providers. So these hybrid environments are critically important. And so picking I would say a general integration automation platform over a function-specific integration automation platform is really important.
Okay, thanks. I'll turn it back over to you to continue.
Thank you. Let's see the results. Okay, so number one is our system only does basic automation, which makes sense. And that is actually a very good starting point, I would say, right? So it is an indication of, your processes have some level of maturity for further automation. But, some others have some advanced levels of automation, but they require, developers, so require human in the loop, which is usually the case, but some others also have no code integration and automation platform. Awesome, thank you. Okay, so let's quickly review the steps that we just discussed to take for use case selection. So as I said, after identifying automation goals that are aligned with organizational strategic objectives, you need to make a list of several use cases. So first, you should conduct a current state maturity assessment and then define a target state for each process. You then need to remove the processes that their target state overlaps their current state, because there is no need to proceed with further automation for those particular use cases. Then you need to evaluate the suitability, value, and risk level of each use case and make a balance between these three criteria. For example, if automation of service level monitoring is highly suitable, highly valuable, and it introduces low level of risk or even no level of risk, then it makes sense to proceed with this particular use case. If risk is moderate, you may need to first address the risk and then proceed with it. And if risk is high, it may not be actually a good candidate use case to proceed, because the risk is actually very high. And at the last step of use case selection and prioritization, you should have a clear understanding about feasibility of the refined use cases. For example, again, if you have required tools and data for integrating into a service level monitoring automation platform, as one particular example here, if you have good level of skills for implementing and maintaining an automation, an automated actually service level monitoring tool, if there is enough budget for implementing and maintaining the solution, and if you have a full support from your leadership and other stakeholders, then it is actually a great automation use case to prioritize. But after identifying these use cases, you should build a targeted automation roadmap. Automation tasks should be guided by three core pillars of value. The first core value is cost. Your automation use cases should reduce resources and resource requirements. For example, automating ticket resolution saves operational costs by reducing manual ticket handling. The second core value is speed. Your selected automation use cases should accelerate process execution. For example, automated incident detection ensures in-time system restoration. And the third core value is consistency. Automation should reduce repeatable tasks with fewer errors. For example, infrastructure as a code ensures uniform configurations across environments. And then you need to build a business case for each prioritized candidate. A well-constructed business case indicates clear benefits for all stakeholders, including end users, IT, and the business. Think about these factors when building your automation business case. How are your customers impacted? Understand your customer pain points, such as outages or delayed resolutions, and assess how automation will benefit them. How is your team spending their time? Assess how much time IT spends on low-value, highly repetitive tasks versus high-impact strategic activities, and then show how automation can help improve productivity. How easily can you support organizational technology and services? Evaluate how current processes facilitate infrastructure and services, and then explain how automation can enhance them. And how can the team support new technology? Discuss the importance of empowering IT with automation to reduce repetitive operational tasks so that they can focus on strategic initiatives. So if you follow the steps that were outlined in this presentation, you can then build a solid business case around your automation candidates, which outlines the considered milestones, required initiatives, values and benefits, potential risks, involved parties, and a high-level Gantt chart that describes initiatives and timelines. So Andrew, we talked a bit about the importance of IT service management platforms and how they have been adopting automation. But I also hear a lot about how great Team Dynamics have been doing for utilizing automation and AI, right? So Team Dynamics have been doing quite a bit around the use of AI and integration, with integration and automation. Can you talk a little bit about this evolution?
Sure. Yeah. So, I think the use of AI, especially around service management, the most common use scenario is virtual service agents or conversational AI agents, whatever you'd like to call them. And there's tremendous value there in being able to answer questions, right? And I think what's really important is being able to integrate with existing sources of information. So if you've ever approached a conversational AI or virtual service agent project, one of the questions is, well, where is the knowledge, right? Where is it going to find the answers for what it needs? Well, having to kick off an entire knowledge base project just to support conversational AI is daunting. So the ability to ingest content that's existing is really important, right? Now, there's value in answering questions, but where AI really starts getting a return is where it can actually do things. So it can pull information from third-party systems. So I have a question about an account balance, or I have a question about my PTO. That's valuable to be able to pull information. So one of the key pieces of what we do is authentication for virtual support or service agent sessions. So we know who that user is. I think we're best in industry at that. Now, you really, really start to see benefit when it can start doing things, just not retrieving. So I'll extend a couple examples and some of the priorities that people stated. So a great example is I want to know what my PTO is, what my balance is, and then I wanted to actually submit several days. Really, really valuable if they can go ahead and do that for me. It's a huge convenience factor. I don't have to get a knowledge-based article about how to log into ADP and do it myself. Another example was equipment replacement. I think it was close to 30% said that was valuable. And what we see often is, A, the user wants to know if they're eligible. So when you combine integration and automation with AI, it can actually go look. It can go into the ITAM system and say, is this person eligible? What is their role, wherever that data exists? And then if so, start gathering the information to actually execute on the procurement of that new piece of equipment. So when you combine integration and automation with AI, it becomes really, really incredibly powerful. And when you think about I think when you think about AI and automation, right? In my opinion, these are not going to be separate things. Okay, they call it multi-mode AI. I think is the latest term. You know, acronyms fly around the space like crazy, but multi-mode or multi-source AI, meaning that you're essentially giving your AI capability, you're giving AI a set of tools it can go use to retrieve information and do things. And that's where we've really been focusing our efforts.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so then that takes us to the take-home message that I want to highlight here. You know, that is actually, you should rethink automation goals, right? So what are your goals? And many organizations think about metrics like reducing mean time to resolve. However, they overlook broader goals such as delivering real business value and innovation. And also effective evaluation starts with balancing, you know, those three factors that we talked about, which are suitability, value, and risk. And through these balance, you can achieve strategic outcomes rather than quick wins. And I think that takes us to a live demo. I think, Daniel, you're going to go through the demo?
Yes, definitely. Let's take a look at some of the things we've been talking about today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll take a look at the Team Dynamics integration and automation platform and how it can help with some of these scenarios that we've been talking through today. So let me go ahead and share out my screen, and we will jump in here. All right, so as we jump in today, the first thing we're going to be taking a look at is simplifying the onboarding process through automation and integration. We've been talking about some of these business cases where we have things that are being run manually. You've got a lot of moving parts, and typically with onboarding, you've got a process that requires a lot of input, a lot of contribution from multiple departments. Think of as new hires are being brought on board, they need access to multiple systems, and there's a lot of different moving parts during that process. And often, again, that requires a lot of that manual work as we've been talking about today. And so our integration and automation platform can really help with that process. Let's dive into what we're taking a look at here. And this is actually what our flow designer looks like. First, what is a flow? Well, it's going to be something with a start point, something with some steps in between, and then an end point. And so that could be reaching out to third-party systems to take action on items. That could be coming in and manipulating data. And as you can see here, our automations are going to be set up utilizing visual blocks in place of manual coding. Again, this is going to help non-technical resources have the ability to create these sophisticated automations without the need to write code. It also is going to allow you to build both simple and complex integrations without having to worry about the backend infrastructure that goes along with it. So as we dig in here, how are these things built out? Well, on the left-hand side, you'll see that we have our toolbox. This toolbox is actually going to house everything you need to build your automations. This includes drag and drop connectors within our connectors area. This includes expressions and actions to take on data. And here in our expressions area, you can see we have a variety of ways to actually manipulate data and move that as we are going through the flow. Now, let's continue on here. So I mentioned a flow is going to start with a start point. So how can we actually start a flow? Well, you'll notice on the left-hand side here, we have our triggers area. And so just keep in mind, flows can be triggered in a variety of different ways. You can come in here, you can run this manually. If I wanted to maybe do a one-time data import between systems, I can select this, I can just press this run now button, and that will trigger a flow for us. In addition, there's other ways that I can make that flow run. I can do this on a schedule. So maybe I want a flow to run every hour, every day, every month. This is where I can set those schedules up in an easy manner. And then we also have the ability to trigger a flow from webhooks. And so with that, you can think of this as that real-time integration. Something happened outside of your ITSM. Maybe a ticket was actually created within your ITSM, but outside of that, maybe your payroll went ahead and triggered an event that starts a flow, maybe your ERP system. And then lastly, the last way that we can start a flow is through a form submission. We're going to come back to that in just a moment, but just keep in mind somebody could fill out a form, press the submit button, and then trigger a flow that way as well. But let's go back into our design mode for just a moment, and let's take a look at that onboarding flow. So as you can see here, within this flow, we are going to define some properties. So first name, last name, department. And let's say this particular flow was triggered by a ticket being brought in through Team Dynamics. And so with that, we might want to define our first name here by taking the input data there. So with that, I'm just going to search for first name, and we'll just define this as the requester's first name from the ticket that was placed here. As we continue on, again, we can build these things out. We can see we can reach out to Azure AD, create a user. We've got some logic if the new hire is in the communications department. Let's go ahead and create a user within Zoom. Let's give them a license for Salesforce. If they're part of the human resources team, let's reach out to Azure Active Directory and add them to a particular group so they have access to the information and data they need when they start on their first day. Let's reach out to Zoom and create that Zoom license. And then if they're an engineer, let's reach out to Team Dynamics ITSM and create a ticket there to get a developer laptop started. Or if they're not, let's just get a standard laptop provision for them. And again, these can be built out in a very drag and drop way. If I want to add another connector, I can simply come to my toolbox, drag and drop this connect to step. And let's say at the end of this flow, we want to connect up to, let's say, Microsoft Teams. So I'm just going to search for that connector here. I can select that. I can see I have a list of actions that I can use here. And then I can simply select what I want to do. Maybe we want to send a message to a Teams channel to let the team know that, hey, there's a new hire, they've onboarded, maybe reach out to them and say hello on their first day. So again, very easy to drag and drop and build out flows and manipulate data as you see fit. Now with these flows, just keep in mind, you're gonna have the ability to troubleshoot as needed. Here we have another integration, just adding a user to a particular Azure Active Directory group, but keep in mind, you'll have full access into the run history here where you can come in, go step by step and see all of the input and output data as you're going through a flow. So very easy to troubleshoot here as well. The last thing I wanted to take a look at here before I pass things back over are going to be what we call dynamic forms. And so as we've gone through today's discussion, we've talked about that replacement, right, of asset records. Maybe I want to let my users be able to self-serve and check in on whether or not they're eligible for a replacement laptop. And so here we can use our dynamic forms area to build out forms that use these automations and integrations as well. The scenario I'm going to run through is reaching out to Team Dynamics. It's going to look at an asset application and bring back asset records. Maybe I want to self-serve on a service tag. Here I can go ahead. We can see this is actually not one that's within our asset application, so we can simply click here to reach out to the knowledge base, get some information about that. However, if I do place another tag here, we can see, again, this is reaching out to my CMDB, grabbing some information, and we can see here that the replacement date is actually passed. It's June 30th, 2025, so we are eligible for a replacement laptop. Here I can come in, maybe I want to select a MacBook Pro for my replacement, and I can agree to some terms and conditions here. And then I can simply hit the submit button. That will, as mentioned earlier, trigger a flow that maybe just creates a ticket within our ITSM. Again, automating that process, but also allowing our users to self-serve and get that information without having to involve that IT staff. So again, being able to free them up for more pressing issues and just more that involves their expertise, right? So again, just wanted to thank everyone for your time today. We've taken a quick look at how onboarding can be handled through our integration and automation layer. We've taken a look at how we can easily troubleshoot those flows. And then lastly, wanted to quickly take a look at how these dynamic forms can also be used for that integration. And so with that being said, thanks again, and I will pass things back over to Michael.
Thank you very much. Let's get to our Q&A. As a reminder, to participate, just type your question into the text box located to the left of the presentation window, or click the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. And we're not going to have a lot of time for Q&A today, so any questions we don't get to, I will share with our speakers to get back offline. Let's start with a question from Gary, who says, how would an IT professional go about preemptively anticipating a need for an automation process before it became a pain point for your user base?
So I can I can maybe start with that. So, anticipating your requirements for automation before even it becomes a pain point is actually very important, right? Especially for high performance IT organizations. It helps you shift your organization from a reactive and firefighting mode to more proactive value creation. So for that, you need to start with maybe identifying your critical success factors, right? So your CSF for adopting automation. Think about your strategic objective for automation. Then narrow down to more tactical objectives that are important for IT rather than the whole organization, right? So your CSF, for example, would be increasing your end user satisfaction. Then the tactical objective would be something that is more related to IT, to pinpoint and resolve your for example, incidents. If you have some SLA breaches or user complaints, that is actually something that we'll talk about that. And from your tactical objectives, you will be able to narrow down to more operational goals that are related to more service desk team day-to-day activities. So from that kind of approach, starting with your high-level objectives that are important for the whole organization and narrowing down to more specific day-to-day activities that will help you resolve your problems, maybe anticipated problems would be very helpful before even getting into the problems or seeing the real problems that could be tackled by automation.
Thanks for that. We have time for maybe one or two more questions. George wants to know, for offboarding automation, do you also have capabilities to remove credentials that are inside of applications?
Andrew, anything to add there?
Yeah, you certainly should. I mean, obviously it depends on the application you're trying to remove it from, but most have that capability in some way, shape, or form to do that. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I'll add to the last question from our observation is that, many times users don't know necessarily as a pain because they're used to it, right? They're used to the pain. So if you look at, for example, service requests that have a tremendous duration, right? The MTTR is long and it could be automated. You might look there and say, okay, if we automated this and it shrunk it from, days of waiting to minutes of waiting, would that add value, right? And I think there's also a pretty good amount of research about the low-hanging fruit in any organization. It's always a good place to start your investigation to see if you could add value there too.
And with that, that's all the time we have questions for today. I want to thank Mahmoud and Andrew. Information Week appreciates your time and expertise on today's topic. Also, thank you to our sponsor, Team Dynamics, as well as to everyone in the audience. We appreciate your attention and participation in the polls and the Q&A. Within the next 24 hours, you'll receive a personalized follow-up email with links to the presentation on demand. Please feel free to invite your colleagues and peers who may not have been able to join us live today. This webinar is copyright 2025 by Informa TechTarget. The presentation materials are owned by or copyrighted by Information Week and Team Dynamics, and the individual speakers are solely responsible for their content and their opinions. On behalf of our guests at Team Dynamics and the Information Week team, I'm Michael Krieger. Thanks for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.